During the pandemic, office managers were asking me to disinfect their buildings 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times a day. Saying yes would have made me tons of money. But I said no, because disinfecting an office 3 times a day still leaves 23 hours and 45 minutes where the surface is protecting nobody. It was hygiene theater, a waste of my clients' money. And the deeper I looked into the science, the more I realized it might actually be making things worse. I'm Antoni from lucrative, award-winning sustainability-first commercial cleaning company serving over 100 facilities across the south of the UK for the last 14 years. And I turned down a lot of money during the pandemic because I was not willing to sell something I knew did not work. Let me show you the science of why consistent disinfecting fails, why it might be making bacteria stronger, and what we do instead. The flash in the pan. To understand why consistent spraying fails, you have to understand how disinfectant actually works. It is an on-contact killer. It needs what is called dwell time, meaning it has to stay visibly wet on the surface for somewhere between 2 to 10 minutes to break down the cell wall of the bacteria and viruses. The exact moment that chemical dries, its killing power drops to 0. Now think about a real office. You disinfect a door handle at 9 a.m. in the morning. The chemical does its job and dries. At 1 minute past 9, someone walks in, touches their face, then touches the handle. The surface is contaminated again. The disinfecting you did 60 seconds ago is now completely irrelevant. That is the flash in the pan problem. It works for a moment, then it is gone, and the surface is right back where it started. There was a second reason constant pandemic disinfection made even less sense. The CDC eventually confirmed that COVID itself was not really being spread by surfaces. The risk of catching COVID from a contaminated surface was less than 1 in 10,000 per contact. It spreads through the air. So spraying chemicals across empty desks 3 times a day was never going to stop people getting ill from COVID specifically. It just filled the room with chemical mist for the workforce to breathe in. But here is the part most people, including a lot of cleaning professionals, completely miss. Because there is a difference between cleaning and disinfecting that almost nobody gets right. And getting it wrong makes everything worse. You cannot disinfect dirt. When I looked at how we could explain this properly to our clients, the clearest framing came from work of Dr. Andrew Kemp, a PhD microbiologist who is head of the British Institute of Cleaning Science and the UK antimicrobial resistant ambassador. In his book on environmental cleaning, he states one rule that cleaning industry needs to be honest about. You cannot disinfect dirt. There is a real difference between cleaning and disinfecting. Cleaning uses surfactants, the active ingredients in soap and detergent, to physically lift dirt, grease and microbes off a surface so they can be wiped away and removed entirely. Disinfecting uses chemicals to try to kill whatever is left behind. They are not the same job, and the order matters enormously. If you skip the cleaning step and go straight to a disinfectant wipe on a dirty surface, 2 bad things happen. First, the dirt itself, what scientists call organic matter, instantly weakens the disinfectant chemical so it cannot work properly. Second, as you drag that wipe across the desk, you are not killing the bacteria. You are just smearing a contaminated paste from one side of the surface to the other. You have made it look done while spreading the problem around. But here is the good news, and it is the part chemical companies do not advertise. If you physically clean a surface properly, you strip away the dirt and the moisture that bacteria needs to survive and multiply. In a normal office, a school or your living room, thorough mechanical cleaning with a proper surfactant is genuinely enough to keep the people safe. No disinfectant is required. So if cleaning is usually enough, what is the actual harm in disinfecting anyway, just to be safe, right? This is where it stops being about wasted money and starts being genuinely dangerous. How over-disinfecting creates superbugs. A lot of products now claim to clean and disinfect in one step. It sounds efficient. But think about what we just learned. If the surface has any real dirt on it, the cleaning part of the product gets used to break down the dirt, which leaves the disinfecting part too weak to actually finish the job. In a genuinely high-risk place like a hospital or a kitchen handling raw meat, the proper method is always two separate stages. Clean first to remove the dirt, then disinfect to clean the surface. But the bigger danger is something Dr. Kem actively campaigns about: antimicrobial resistance, the creation of super bugs. When we constantly blast our homes and offices with everyday disinfectants, we often hit bacteria with a dose that is strong enough to kill the weak ones, but not strong enough to kill the tough ones. The strongest, most resilient bacteria survive and multiply. Over time, the bacteria in your environment becomes harder and harder to kill. Research has shown something more worrying. When bacteria are exposed over and over to disinfectants that are not quite strong enough to kill them, some of them get tougher. And in certain cases, the same bacteria that got tougher against the disinfectants also became harder to kill with antibiotics, the drugs doctors use in hospitals. Scientists, including Dr. Kem, are worried about the huge amount of disinfectant we now use in homes, workplaces, and food factories, maybe adding to the antibiotic resistance problem. How much of that comes from your spray bottles at home specifically is still being studied. But the direction the evidence points in is the reason careful scientists do not recommend constant disinfecting in normal environments. Unless you are dealing with a hospital, a vulnerable person, or raw meat in a kitchen, routine disinfecting is not just unnecessary. It might also be quietly making the bigger problem worse. If daily disinfecting is a waste of money and over-disinfecting can be dangerous, what did we actually do for the buildings we clean? Because we still had to protect people, especially during the months when viruses really do spread. What we switched to? We needed protection that did not depend on spraying chemicals all day. So we moved to advanced antimicrobial surface coatings. Instead of chemicals that kills on contact and then dries up and stops, these coatings bond to the surface and create a microscopic layer that keeps working for weeks at a time. The way it works is genuinely clever. The coating forms a layer of microscopic spikes across the surface. When a bacteria lands on it, the spike physically punctures the cell and destroys it. Because it is a physical action rather than a chemical one, the bacteria cannot adapt or mutate their way around it. So, you get continuous protection without feeding the super bug problem we just talked about. Some of these coatings keeps working for up to 60 days from a single application. And that matters most in winter. COVID was mainly airborne, but plenty of other viruses absolutely do spread through surfaces. Norovirus is a big one, the winter vomiting bug. It is non-enveloped virus, meaning it is far tougher than COVID, survives much longer on surfaces, and is responsible for a huge proportion of outbreaks in offices, schools, and care homes every single winter. Flu spreads through surfaces too, alongside its airborne routes. So while constant pandemic-style disinfecting did almost nothing for COVID, surface protection genuinely matters when norovirus is going around the office. That is exactly where antimicrobial coatings earn their place. They keep working continuously day and night against the viruses where surfaces are the real route of transmission. But there is a catch, and it brings us right back to the basic rule. These coatings only keep working as long as the surface is actually kept clean. If dust, skin oil, and dirt build up on top of the coating, they bury those microscopic spikes and the whole thing stops working. The coating is a brilliant safety net between cleans. It is not a magic replacement for physically cleaning the surface. Nothing is. That always comes first. So, after all of that, what should you actually do whether you're running a business or just cleaning your own kitchen? Here is the honest science-based approach. For low-risk areas, which means offices, desks, classrooms, and your living room at home, thorough cleaning with a proper surfactant on a regular basis is enough. You do not need to disinfect. You need to clean properly. For high touch points like door handles and keyboards, clean them thoroughly and then A long-lasting antimicrobial coating gives you continuous cover between cleans. For genuinely high-risk environments like hospitals, care homes, kitchen surfaces that have touched raw meat, this is when you use the strict two-stage process. Clean first to remove the dirt, then disinfect the clean surface and give it that dwell time it needs to actually work. This is the whole system. Notice what it is built on. Not fear, not the smell of strong chemicals, not putting on a show for clients 3 times a day. It is built on understanding the environment you are actually protecting and matching the method to the real level of risk. True cleanliness was never about how strong a room smells of bleach. It is about removing the dirt that bacteria needs to survive and only reaching for the heavy chemicals when the situation genuinely calls for it. I turned down a lot of money during the pandemic by refusing to disinfect buildings 3 times a day. I do not regret it for a second, because selling people a chemical that protects them for 15 minutes out of every 24 hours while filling their lungs with mist and potentially breeding tougher bacteria is not a service, it is a performance. And I am not interested in performances. If you found this useful, subscribe. I cut through the marketing and show you what actually works in cleaning, backed by science. And if you run a business and you want your cleaning to be based on evidence rather than fear, there is a link in the description. Come and talk to us. I am Antoni from Lucrative. Thank you for watching.